Hello, folks. Welcome to this look at one of the things in Worldographer that's new, or in this case, improved. What we're looking at is a map generated using our Western icons, which actually date back to our prior program, Cityographer. Cityographer, Dungeonographer, and Hexographer were all kind of combined, and a lot of functionality was added to make Worldographer, which will let you do any of those types of maps. Um, and we had a way to configure the icons to load them into the program and then to also add a whole bunch of data about them so that when you click on a building, you get information about what's for sale there in the case of some stores or who lives there, that sort of thing, as well as controlling where do the buildings get placed. So let me show you how to set that up. If you go up to the generate or the configure menu, I should say, you have these three options here: show configuration folder, change configuration folder, and add configuration subfolders. You could just use add custom features and find the icons on your machine and just load them all in as custom features, but it works a little bit better. It's a little bit easier to just go through a little bit of work to set this up. By default, you have a configuration folder set to your user folder slash Worldographer. Now that's a folder that you would have to create, and if you want to see exactly what it is, the full path to it, you can pull up Show Configuration Folder. Now in my case, I've moved it. So if we show mine, you've got a Dropbox is where I stick all my stuff into, and then we've got Patreon folder because we do a number of monthly Patreon icons. And so any subfolders of that are going to show up on our add configuration subfolders. If you want to change that, like I did, from the default user folder Worldographer, you would go to change configuration folder and it will give you a file chooser and you can pick any folder on your system. So then once that's been set, if you go to add configuration folders, it's going to look at all the folders that are there inside of that configuration folder, and it will give you the names if they have a feature subfolder or a texture subfolder or a terrain subfolder, because that's what you would need to have in order to kind of import them into the drawers on the side there. So since we do have a feature subfolder in Settlement Western, we can go ahead and pick that, hit OK. So that's step one of the setup process. And step two is going to configure settlement data. And I've already done this. Before I did it, you would have a bunch of options about medieval buildings here. And so if you go to load configuration, it will prompt you, say, hey, do you want to clear the prior data? Yes, you would, because you don't want your medieval stuff to mix in with the Western stuff. So you click clear prior data, hit OK, and it's going to give you a file chooser. And you're going to want to pick this, in this case, a settlement config western.xml file. And once you do that, you're going to see a message will appear saying, hey, the settings have been loaded. Go ahead and reopen the dialog and make sure that what you're expecting is there. And so in our case, we have these Western buildings. So I'm just going to close this because it's already been applied, and even if you load them, they get applied automatically when you load. So then we go into creating a new city, town, village, and you can do this in two ways. One is to do it all in one step, which is what we had done here, or you could also go and do a blank map and then do it step by step. And I'm going to show that because it's kind of nice. You can tweak some things as you go along. I can go ahead and say generate the map now. So we have just a blank map. And if we're doing it this way, then you would use these options on the generate menu roughly in order. So if you're going to have a coastline, you would do generate coast. If you're going to have a river, you would go generate river. Cancel that. But the first one you need to do is to have two main roads. Where two roads meet, that's going to be your city center. And say that I do want to have these running truly north, south, and east, west. I can do that. Then I can make this one perpendicular. Now, the 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock isn't necessarily going to be exact. It might go slightly slanted, but it's going to start out roughly in the center of the top center of the map and go roughly to the bottom center of the map. And then we would have another road going basically perpendicular to that, regardless of what these settings are here. The default texture, I should point out, is a cobblestone for medieval maps. So if you're doing something like a western town, I like the mountain floor color. It's a slightly darker brown, and hit OK. So we've got our two main roads. Then you would generate the overall streets. But the nice thing here is that if you don't like those main roads, how they're placed and everything, you can undo that and then redo it. Do it again. Um, so if I go to streets now, uh, I like in this case I often like to do branching or haphazard layouts, but for the streets. For the western towns, I like them to be kind of following a city block kind of structure. That just seems like Wild West or Old West to me. So um, I pick that. Number of streets, it's going to try to place 150, but if the map area doesn't support that, eventually it will bail. Skip chance percentage is just going to say, well, the chance that you have a double block essentially, where there's no road dividing two blocks. Same texture, hit OK, and so we get something like this. This is us skipping, making a double block here, and you can see, our city center is going to be down here. So now, we get into the big reveal, which is placing the buildings. That's always fun to kind of watch. I'm going to set this to be just 3,000, a slightly smaller town. I'm not going to do the dense buildings. That would just force the buildings that are placed towards the city center to be tighter together. I'm going to say that this, Old West Town is kind of still developing, so it's not necessarily filled in. Building road distance, this is kind of an extra little pushback. How far back should the buildings be from the road? And we hit OK. And it's cycling through, and it's adding up. It's creating resonance for each of these buildings, and whatever that number is, it's adding to that total. So now what I like to do is I definitely like to turn off the feature labels. These are these little LH1 and KH1 and so forth, and that's just a grid with, imagine letters going across the top and down the side of the map, and there's a grid, and it's building 1 in that section or building 2 in that section. So I turn off that with this checkbox on the bottom. You can also turn off the checkbox for the notes, which are the little yellow squares. It's nice to, it's nicer looking without them on, but it helps. I'm going to show some of these notes in a moment, so I'm going to leave it on, or turn it back on, I guess. And so here we've got our town hall, and I can pull up the note, and here this just gives a staff of who's the mayor and who's living there, or rather who the staff members, rather I should say. What I can do though is because this is a full map editor and everything, it's easy to move things around. So I want my town hall to be actually on the corner center there, so I can move this building here, for example. It's nice that it's all ordered, that the slopes, the lines are the same, so I can move this to another road with the same slope. Makes it easy to kind of move things around, and so I can put this here, and I can then go back to the notes and pull up this building here. What is this? This is just another house. So, I don't want that super prominent. Let's just check these others though too. Yeah, another house there. And is this a church or something? Schoolhouse. Oh, okay. Let me get to the schoolhouse in a moment, but I'm going to just move these other two. Can't close that. I'm going to move these other two buildings away from the city center because it doesn't make sense to me anyway to have the main corner of the whole city just have two random houses on it. So I'm just moving these other houses away, and then I can backfill in with these buildings here. And I'm not going to do a whole lot of this because we want to keep the video short, but it's not too hard to do. Just find a location for that building with the same slope, and then find another building. Like I wanted to move this cafe over here and have this next to the town hall. Right. So let me go back to the notes though and show you. So this cafe, for example, we've got the staff here and patrons that happen to be in there, and prices for drinks and food, and you can regenerate all that if you want to. And we've got our post office, like I was saying. I'm just going to pull up these other notes. So we have a manager and a clerk there. This building here, what was this again? General store. So just a list of staff for that. The school, though, I wanted to show. We've got staff here, so the teachers, and then students. Now, one change with version 1.55 and 1.56, 1.56, is that you can designate a particular role as children, and so you can see all these ages are 6 when we got a 5-year-old and a 4-year-old. So 4 to 14 years old, I think 4 to 14 years old, and the reason or the way to set that up is to go to the settlement data here, building details, and we can pull up the school. And we can say that the student has a minimum child age percentage. So if it's -1, that means that we can't have any children in that role. If it's something else, then we can have children. In this case, they can be 27% or more of the child age. Well, what's the child age? Well, that goes, we look at our races tab here. And we have an age range for the humans of 15 to 70. So all the other people are going to be generated with a 15 to 70 age range. But then we take that 15, and so 27% works out to be allowing us to have a 4-year-old, at the school. So we can have 4 to 14-year-olds in the school with that percentage setting. Now, for like a house where you can have people of any age, then you can have a 0% there, and so you can have a baby in a house. So that's something that's new in 1.56. Let me just pull up a house just to show that. I think this is just a regular fenced house, I believe. Yeah, family. So here we've got family, and we've got a 5-year-old, a 9-year-old, and 11-year-old, as well as the adults. We've got also another change in the icon set is that I added these ranch houses, and so these are designed to be placed outside of the city center, but they don't necessarily always get placed that way. So I can grab that little red handle to do the rotate. So they're designed. They're told to be not within 6 or 8 or 9 hexes. I forget what the exact setting is from the city center, but that still allows it to be here, for example. And so in this case, we would want to move these out to somewhere else. I can move another house in order to accommodate that. But so it's a full map editor, so it lets you make all those changes, so you can get the map just right. But the fact that it auto generates everything for you does give you that option, or does give you a great head start where you can pretty much with 2 setup steps have a Western town, and then you can tweak it to your heart's desire from there. So that's what's new. We're going to be updating our other icon sets as well that we had done a while back. Make sure that they're nice and work smoothly with Worldographer. So look for more updates along those lines, as well as other new features. You never know what we're going to throw into Worldographer next. So thank you very much for your support.